Welcome to the TalentedLearning Show podcast series, episode 94 with independent learning tech analyst John Lay. Today I interviewed Dusty Burton, ed tech coordinator at Aurora Public Schools, to explore how his district is using microlearning to reduce teacher turnover, streamline onboarding, and most importantly, reward professional development. You can find more of our fiercely independent content at talentedlearning.com. Well, welcome back, listeners, to the TalentedLearning Show podcast. On this show, I'm fortunate to interview the world's leading experts in learning technology from both the vendor and the practitioner perspectives. Today's expert is definitely on the practitioner side of the fence. Dusty has spent more than 2 decades in the classroom at Aurora Public Schools, and now as the ed tech coordinator, he's leading the charge to modernize professional learning with short-form, scalable, and credit-bearing content that meets educators where they're at, on their phones, in between classes, or after hours. Today's episode may be grounded in K through 12 education, but don't let that title fool you. The challenges Dusty is solving in his school district are painfully familiar to every organization that has to deliver continuing education or professional education or is worried about onboarding at scale. Personnel shortages, high turnover, compressed budgets, and the growing demand for just-in-time learning aren't just school district problems. They're universal. But what makes this story so compelling to me is how the microlearning content delivers trackable, personalized professional development all across the whole department, and it's like a ground up swell from teachers to counselors to HR to campus security. Educators earn credit towards salary increases and also towards their professional teacher license renewal with the state of Colorado, while the district gets to build a sustainable, scalable model for retaining talent and equipping new hires. Whether you're an education associations, training company, or L&D, this episode offers a proven blueprint for making microlearning matter and, more importantly, making it measurable. Let's dive in. Dusty, welcome to the TalentedLearning Show. It's sure great to have you here.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, me too, because you've solved or are solving something that a lot of people are trying to solve, somewhat successfully, a lot unsuccessfully. So we're really looking forward to learning. But for background information, let's start at the top. Tell us about Aurora, the school district, where you work. We'll start from there, and we'll start digging deeper.
Sure. So, Dusty Burton, my current title is the Ed Tech Coordinator of Aurora Public Schools. This is just finishing up my 22nd year in public education. So, I'm a lifer at this point. Aurora Public Schools is a very unique but heavily diverse public school system. One of the most diverse, in fact, when it comes to different languages spoken in the system. So over 100 different languages are spoken by families throughout the system. So last year, when we had a pretty big influx in terms of immigration, it proved to be a little bit of a challenge, but we, as a team, figured out some ways to do it and kept pushing forward. So
awesome. And so when you took over the ed tech coordinator position, there was a series, and probably still are, a series of fundamental challenges that the school district was struggling with. What is that, and outline that for us on what the problems are in today's.
I'm not the only one that's going to say this, but communication and understanding what people need to do in their jobs and roles, and then just what people need to know, period. Right. So all of that are issues and problems. The communication, I wouldn't say I've solved that, but I have solved potentially the other two, right? Which is finding some ways to get just-in-time learning to our staff. So if that means that a group needs to onboard or a staff member needs to onboard, then the department can use Microlearning's Learnie is the one we chose to create their onboarding system through a journey. And so, from that standpoint, we have shown that we're being pretty successful with regard to whom we're reaching out to, and then not even and also whom we're not reaching out to. So we're seeing some pretty heavy use cases of this just-in-time learning, this Learnie platform, Learnie.app. and we're really excited about it. And now we're at a place that we're just going to like exponentially grow.
If you're focused on onboarding, is that because there's a lot of turnover inside of there, or is this just the normal onboarding?
It's a great question. One of our biggest pieces that comes back to us when we do surveys is how to retain talent, right? With a lot of school districts have that issue. How do they retain their talented teachers, talented staff members in general? Part of it is we have not had a real onboarding system ever, to be honest with you. So being able to create some onboarding materials for these people, we're now empowering them to day one be effective in their job and then continually be effective by having these just-in-time trainings whenever they need them. And they can continue to come back to the trough. Oftentimes, we tell new teachers, hey, come in all day in the beginning of August, and we're going to just like open a fire hose and point it at you. And you're going to just drink from the fire hose, get all the information you need for the whole entire year in that one day, and we're going to turn it off, and then you don't have access to it anymore. That's typically what's happened. So we're trying to flip the script. And instead of fire hose, I used to take drinks out of the hose and I did it at my own pace and my own time. So, it was, I need a 5-second burst here. I'm going to take a drink of it and I'm going to get the knowledge that I need in that time. So,
Wow, interesting. Yeah, I grew up in the '80s, so drinking out of a hose was mandatory.
oh yeah. Yeah, it's a rite of passage for us Gen Xers and millennials, right?
So if before it was like the in-service days or the August days, you drink the fire hose, but you chose to go at it. Why don't you talk more about what the initial program is? How did you roll out? Well, maybe even start one step further than that. What is a micro learning platform, and what's that mean to you and to your organization? We'll take.
It's interesting because, in my head, I've been thinking about the term micro PD for a very long time, but I have to understand and stop and realize like not everybody understands what that is. So, and the way we've kind of defined that in Aurora Public Schools is a burst of learning that's either 30 seconds to 7 minutes in length. And in this case, we were looking and historically, or to give you a little historical context, we had a CEO at the time that asked, hey, someone build me an app where we can just find the information we need, when we need it, how we need it, access it from the couch, on your phone, on the go, for people to just access and use, right? So that was the ask. And it was like, that's what I've been wanting and dreaming about for many years being in ed tech is like micro PDs. In fact, it's funny, our interim CAO, I was talking about this, and I said micro PDs are short PDs, and he said, shouldn't that all be all PDs as short PDs, right? So he's not wrong, right? We need to get away from these 3-hour long PDs and give teachers a more meaningful impact. So the idea of it, there's kind of twofold. One is that it's short, right? 30 seconds to 7 minutes, but because of the way they do their platform, it's broken up into 30-second or under chunks of learning to create a brain break for people. So if you were to go watch a 5-minute YouTube video on pick a topic, but then you'd watch it continuously and be done with it. But in Learning, you watch it and there's a brain break every 30 seconds or less. It allows your brain to take a look at what's the engagement. So whether it's a link or a pause or a poll or a question, it continues to engage the learner further. And it's like there's lots of knowledge checks built in there that are super informative and helpful from our side to see where people stand currently in terms of where their learning is at.
What's the content look like then? Is it like slide based, video based, audio based, all the above?
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, people ask me, hey, Dusty, what could I do fill in the blank with Learning? And I say yes. The only real piece that we don't want is those hour-long trainings. If you're going to do an hour-long training, we have a different program for that. You can go set that up, and that's more traditional PL. Instead, we want your short just-in-time training. So you asked what's in there now. We have departments doing System 101 updates. So you have College and Career Success department have some learnings in there. You have HR that has learnings about how to fill out employee staff forms. Finance has some learnings in there. We have IT churning out some learnings left and right about some different practices and ways of doing things and step-by-step instructions. Of course, I'm in ed tech, and we have coaches in ed tech, and so there's quite a few ed tech learnings in there as well right now. But ultimately, it's every department is providing their learning for this system and this group of people. They want to call it onboarding, great. They don't, that's okay too. The point of it is we now have that one-stop shop where people can go in a relaxed format to get their learning. And by the way, Learnie worked with us because they didn't have a transcript at first, but they built a transcript for us. So now we're giving salary advancement credit for anybody that watches these videos. So, as far as like the carrot, maybe I should have led with that. That's where most people are really excited about this. I have a couple super users that are like over 25 hours of credit at this point.
Mm-hmm. So what's that mean, salary enhancement? Does it mean what I said it means? Like if you do a threshold of, I don't know, 5, 10, or 15 hours, you get XYZ dollars extra? Is that or how's it work?
Yeah, so you get bumped up to a different lane every so often. So I think it's by every 30 credits or 15 credits, you get bumped up to the next salary level. So if you are uh, a 5-year teacher, but you are MA plus 15 credits, then you're going to get paid more than someone that is a 5-year teacher and MA flat, no extra credits, right?
Mm.
So it's a way for people, and what they need to realize is over time, this is going to be very helpful when they retire, um, to get more money out of retirement, really. So
Yeah.
lots of people, including like some of our folks that are not, I would call like our late adopters, are early adopters now, right? Because they want to bump up their salary and make sure that they're getting what they need out of the system. So super successful from that standpoint.
Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. There's nothing like a good carrot to get people motivated. People forget about that a lot. Organizations forget about how easy it is. But once people get learning, just in general like that, whether it's for the benefit of the salary or not, you get them in the mode of learning, and that's what you really want, as an organization. But that's not your only carrot, is it? Inside the state of Colorado, teachers, really every state, teachers are required to first get their licensure or their license, and then have annual continuing education credits. And so you found a way to tie that into this whole thing. How does that work?
Absolutely. So I was kind of hitting upon it before, but the transcript piece, the user goes and downloads their transcript in Learning, which tracks every minute, every second that user engages in video watching, and goes into an official transcript that we then accept into our professional learning platform as salary advancement, or in the case that you're talking about, CDE renewal. So the Colorado Department of Education renewal, in terms of every so often teachers need to show that they are basically lifelong learners. So we're giving people an option to get recertified on the comfort of their own home, on their phone, on the go, wherever they want to be.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's one of the things that excited me as I was learning about what you were doing, is how much crossover there is with really any organization that needs to provide their professionals with continuing education. And so some of the low hanging fruits would be like associations or training companies that are providing these sometimes big, ugly curriculums, big SCORM courses, big things that the professionals that aren't their employees, but are just in the industry have to take. And so, I'm encouraging all you continuing education and professional development providers out there to think that if you break this stuff up smaller, it can even be in 1 or 2 minute segments and still add that up for credit for your learners. I think it's just a great idea for sure. But when you look at micro learning and you look at your school district and you look at all the departments and you look at all the things you could do, I would imagine it gets overwhelming. So how did you figure out what to do first?
Yeah, that's a good one. This was unlike most ed tech products, right, that I've implemented, mostly because in the past, an ed tech product is a tool that, we'll put out some learning on it. But for the most part, it's got a friendly enough UI that you can get it going and stuff. The difference here is that we need content creation. So there's a little bit of thinking through that we had to do. Who's going to be our content creators? How should we vet content creators? How should we vet content in general? So through project management, we use some templates for project management and developed a plan to roll out in phases, 4 phases, and make sure that we are hitting on all of those KPIs along the way and not ignoring any of them. So with concern to that, of course, we are in the full implementation phase right now and looking toward that sustainment number 4. And the work's not done. We're going to continue building it and pushing it and getting parents in there eventually, right? We want everybody to take advantage of this, but yeah, anyway, it is a project. I would recommend that you have a good committee group with some leadership voices on that committee that are bringing ideas to the table and providing really valuable feedback. We had a really good group that met every other week throughout the whole year. Their micro PD leadership committee. I never was able to find a better acronym because that's a mouthful, but we were able to do a lot and inform the system a lot. And then of course, start building our catalog too, because we buy this platform. This is where we house it. Now we need to seed it with content that is Aurora Public Schools only content. So
How did you teach people how to use the tool to create content, and how do you keep the content within acceptable standards when you have so many content developers weighing in on?
yeah. Yeah, that was like something that I wrestled with for a long time. So if anybody's like out there listening and you're thinking about going learning, my best suggestion to you is to don't think about vetting content, think about vetting the content creator. And so that's the route we took because there's hundreds of learnings, thousands of learnings. Nobody's got time to look through all of that. But what we did is we actually made a micro credential in giving people 10 hours of professional learning credit or CDE renewal time. And basically in that, we teach them how to be a content creator from that side. That means just like physically the step-by-step how to make and build a learning in the platform. And then also including things like what are the best practices of micro learning? What kinds of pieces do you want to keep in mind when you're making one of these? Use images and be exciting, engaging, right? Maybe not so much like let's just present a slide and talk about it in a monotone voice. We want people to be engaging, and this should be a fun thing people are commenting on. I mean, we were looking for that social media feel, if I'm going to be totally honest with you. We want that communicative and that community building piece there. So the fact that you're able to hit like and comment on these learnings was a big selling point for us when we first were adopting it in the RFP phase. So with that said, it's certainly a process. And vetting the content creator has worked out to be the thing to do, the correct choice. It's so much easier to vet the person than it is to vet every single piece of content that comes into there. With that said, on the flip side, when we look back at the content, ultimately one of the questions is how do you keep this relevant, right? Well, right now we're looking at all of the learnings that were made a year ago now. Do we need to make any changes to those to maintain some relevancy in the system? And so we're actually sending out emails to all of the content creators that made videos and learnings a year ago to make sure that they understand that they are responsible for updating the content. It needs to be up to date and relevant still.
And what are the learners themselves, the teachers, I guess, in this case, or the employees and more in general? What's been the feedback? Are you collecting feedback? What's that look like?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. We're doing some surveys. We send it out, you're as good as the people that fill out your surveys, but also on top of surveys, just looking at the analytics of the platform that it comes with is actually really robust. The analytics, you can go look up someone and see down to the second how many learnings they've watched, including single learnings. So as far as like feedback, the feedback has been really, really strong. But what's been a little bit stronger is actually just the analytics in general. We're seeing a lot of staff come in and start using it, and we're seeing a lot of new staff month over month, which to me is good, as well as returning staff, right? Because we don't want someone to come in and just watch a 2-minute video and then never go back to it. They're coming back to the well because they're finding that there's relevant and useful information in there. So, and that will only continue to grow as we continue to grow the library of learnings.
Now, you mentioned a couple just right there. Why don't you recap what are the most important metrics that you're using to track your success?
Sure. So obviously we want to see how many people have logged into the system, right? How many logins. But more importantly, we want to see, and we've been tracking like month over month um, uh, data regarding how many new people have logged in since last month, and then also how many people logged in last month and logged in this month. So, we had like something like a 42% increase from January to February in terms of new users, which is a huge high number. And then from March into April, we had it was about 70% of people had logged in March and April. So like those two metrics right there kind of speak volumes to me of like we're getting people in and we are getting people back.
hmm
Not just one-time use, but going forward usage.
hmm hmm Excellent, excellent. What about uh, what about from a AI standpoint? Is that feature into any of your calculus?
It was one of our metrics when we were looking at our RFP. And so when we were looking at our vendors and seeing what they had in terms of AI, it certainly was one of those metrics that we scored Learnie against. Learnie has a really beautiful AI with concern to a couple things. One, the search engine has a nice AI feature built in there that will allow you to talk with it and find exactly the just-in-time learning that you need, as well as they have a feature called Quiz Builder. So not only could you provide micro PD just-in-time learning to your staff, you could also quiz them. And you can go get those analytics on the admin dashboard if you would like to track and see where that goes. So the AI with the quiz builder will actually see and listen to the content that you've recorded on your learning and then give you an example of a few questions based on what you did for questions in multiple choice format for your quiz builder. So rather than going in and starting anew and starting fresh, it already automatically takes you to an AI-driven quiz based on the video you've uploaded, which is pretty slick.
Yeah, neat. That's a big time
Yeah,
saver.
huge
You,
time saver.
you mentioned a couple of times, or we have today, about the carrots. From the salary to the professional development credits. Did you consider any sticks in this?
Mm. Absolutely. There's always sticks, right? You're never going to please everybody. Um, there's the sticks that we were thinking about ended up not really being the big deal. It's always the sticks you don't think about that end up being the big deal, right? So when I think, hey, this is awesome, and there's an opportunity for teachers to get live credit, some people, provide feedback of, well, I don't like how I can't fast forward and rewind it until I've watched it all. Well, we need to be able to see that you've watched it all in order to give you that credit, right? So some of the sticks are things like that. Again, I don't think that that's a huge deal, but at the end of the day, you have to make sure that all voices are heard. We have a feedback form that is available on our website. If you have any feedback on this system and how we're implementing it, people are welcome to come fill it out and tell us what we're doing wrong or what we're doing right, maybe. Who knows?
Flash forward 24 months from now, what's it going to all look like? Where do you want
Ooh.
it to be?
I was actually just having a conversation with my boss about this. Parents, this is a community, right? I want to build this to the point where parents in Aurora Public Schools will have a one-stop shop to go learn about Aurora Public Schools, whether that's with nutrition and services, buses, safety and security, mental health and counseling, the Welcome Center for new families of Aurora, all of those departments and divisions that are really front facing to parents and really serve the parents of Aurora Public Schools are really excited about the possibility of putting some training in and allowing parents to log in and take a look at all of the good stuff that we can offer in Aurora Public Schools. So as not just like a recruiting effort to draw kids to APS, but also, make moms and dads feel comfortable that, hey, we've got some good, knowledgeable people doing some good, knowledgeable work in Aurora Public Schools too. So 24 months from now, we have a couple communities, and one being that we've built and stood up is the parent community.
Wow, great. That's
Yeah, I'm excited.
for listeners that follow along here regularly. You may have not thought that K through 12 school districts have extended enterprise learning, but taking it past their teachers, past their students, now to the parents, it's just like in the corporate world with customers and employees and partners and all your stakeholders all wrapped up into one. So this is really relevant, I think, across all the verticals of learning as just a different approach to go do it. What's your best advice? We're at time already. Goodness gracious, it goes quick. What's your best advice for, uh, let's hold it down to school districts on getting started with a program like microlearning? What mistakes did you make that you wish you wouldn't have? Now you look back here in the last year. Anything you did wrong that you just wish you could wave a magic wand and do over? What's that advice?
It's a really good question. First, you have to have a good team. I have a great team of coaches that helped me think through this. And then we got some more people in other departments to be part of our community and our micro PD leadership committee meetings. The some of the biggest lessons learned was just landing on that we're gonna vet the content creator as opposed to the content. I probably spent about a month just going back and forth in my head of how do I vet the content? How do I vet the content? I don't have enough human beings on staff to vet all of the content. So because we landed on vet the content creator, that saved us a lot of time and angst. Some of the other stuff, you know, honestly, it's like a door-to-door salesman sometimes. I like to go make introductions in person. I was with our director of safety and security today and teaching him how to log in and create learnings for his police officers that are keeping our schools safe. So getting in front of people, telling them about what this platform does, I mean, it then sells itself, right? I could email all day. It's really hard to get people to open an email and then do the thing, right? But in person, it's a lot easier. So going around, schedule a couple days where you have nothing to do other than just kind of go around and find some people that you want to be on board with this. That would be my biggest lesson learned. I wish I'd have started that earlier.
That's sage advice. Dusty Burton, Ed Tech Coordinator at Aurora Public Schools. Yeah, I agree. I haven't heard that approach taken. So that's really innovative. That approach being certifying the content creators as opposed to the content. That's going to be news to a lot of people. For some reason, we think the other way all the time. So that's a nice, refreshing way. Retail politicking never goes out of style. So you're going to sell a new solution from the grassroots up. Make sure you're meeting with everybody and building that team and getting all the stakeholders. And what you didn't mention in your advice here, but you did during the show, is really that concept of carrots. Get that concept of carrots up in your forefront, because that's a way that you can help articulate the value and get that groundswell going faster, which is what you want to do. What you want to do, get this thing taken off as fast as you can. So
Absolutely.
cool. Well, Dusty, thanks for stopping by, sharing what you're up to. Cool stuff. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
All right, great. Well, keep up the good work. That's really exciting. I love this whole concept of micro learning. I hear vendors and talk to vendors every day and different folks, and everybody throws that term out, or a lot of people throw the term out. But when I ask the next questions about how and what and why, it gets a little foggy. And so it's nice that it's not foggy with you. You got a plan, you got an expansion, you got a launch, you're in deployment, you're growing the whole program, putting in certifications. It's like a whole level deeper than what I'm used to seeing. And that's why I'm super excited to have you here today and share it with everybody and all the listeners. So listeners, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Talented Learning Show. We hope you learned something. You can find more of our fiercely independent content at talentedlearning.com. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next.